What's going on to all of my Scorpios out there? So based upon my analytics, the zodiac signs want longer videos. So I'm going to do my endeavor best to give y'all longer videos. Here we go. So for you Scorpios, you have the Nine of Wands, the Ten of Swords, the Nine of Cups, the Queen of Wands, the Hermit, the Temperance, the Empress, the Three of Wands, okay, the Seven of Wands, and last but not least, you have the Two of Cups. So, excuse me, what I'm seeing here for you Scorpios, no major arcana that represents Scorpio, right? But let's see what happens. So, a lot of you Scorpios happen to be in a situation right now where if any of you are thinking about that's interesting. Okay. So if any of you are thinking about being in a relationship, Nine of Wands, Ten of Swords, you can be in one all day if you want to. It's just a matter of if and when you decide to be in a relationship or try to find one, are you going to be the most healthy that you can possibly be? It's about health. Being in a relationship is about health. It's about financial health, physical health, mental health, emotional health, all of that. All of this type of stuff has to deal with spirituality. So, with that being said, can you honestly look at yourself in the mirror and say that you are healthy? Now, again, you can go out here and date whomever it is that you want, or you Scorpios can spend some more time healing. Because what I'm seeing here is that you Scorpios essentially up and you're up and at it again, up and adamant, speaking to people, getting to know people. But the Nine of Cups represents this is the question at hand though. Are you Scorpios actually equipped to go out here into the dating market and begin to date again? Is that something that you legitimately want to do? Or is that something that ultimately you're in a situation where you're just dating just for the sake of dating? Now, if you're dating just for the sake of dating, obviously I don't necessarily recommend that because a lot of times, regardless of whatever zodiac sign it is, you can potentially bring that type of drama in relationships with you. I know myself. I've been in situations, right, when I used to be, a teenager, 14, 15, whenever it is that I get myself out of or have a terrible breakup, I start thinking of it like the next person who I'm trying to get to know, they're going to act the same exact way. And the thing is that I had to learn how to not think like that towards everybody because that's not necessarily the case, right? That's not necessarily the situation. So what happens here is that the Queen of Wands represents this being a situation for you where the Queen of Wands represents how the Queen of Wands represents this being a situation for you where you have to kind of take a look at the dating market or the dating pool for what it actually is. You're not really missing a whole lot, Scorpio. You're really not, right? The dating market is based upon um the dating market is based upon mentally ill people, basically. You know what I mean? A lot of people who have issues. Now, I'm not saying that every person has that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's full of wounded people. And when I talk about mental health, I mean people who remember how it is a few minutes ago. I was just talking about you have to be healthy, right? Well, these people are not paying attention to their own personal health. They're not understanding that their own personal health is at stake here when it comes to mixing energies and getting to know people and interacting with others and being and kind of being in each other's faces and spaces, right? So the thing is that a lot of times this is why it is I suggest taking 30 days unless you are advanced to where, and even people who are advanced sometimes needs to take 30 days, right? Um, because what happens here is that you end up mixing with a person's energy and who they are so much, to the point where when the two of you are not together anymore, you're now in a situation where, you're now in a situation where the two of you happen to be in a situation where uh now when this person is not with you anymore, you remember that person's still there. You still have to learn to get over the ghosts, right? You still have to learn to get over that situation. So what happens here is that the hermit now represents this being a situation for you where, people are still going to come into your life who, you know, you may not have necessarily would have thought that they were the marriage material or they're your type. But what it's saying here is that maybe you Scorpios need to be a little bit more vigilant as to the possibilities and the type of potential relationships that you could have, right? Because it's not just about dating your particular type. See, what I'm trying to say here is that um you want to date as many people as you possibly can within decency, right? And how it is that you do that is you ultimately pick someone of course is of age, decent, right? Healthy, right? Of course, when I say healthy, I mean mentally healthy, physical health, spiritual health, all of that type of stuff, and that you build a relationship with them. The last thing that you want to do, or the last thing that I think that you Scorpios should want to do is the last thing that you should want to do is be in a situation you where you overlook somebody and that person ends up being the one that really is fit for you. The temperance now represents this being a situation where but the thing is that the temperance represents you have to embrace the darker side of you and the lighter side, right? You do want a relationship, right? But the problem is that you don't want a relationship with people who are dysfunctional. And see, that's the problem that the temperance represents here. The temperance actually is Lucifer. It's and see, that's the situation. That's why the temperance's left cup is higher than the right cup. Because what it's trying to show you is that it's trying to show you that you need to actually um because the symbol that what it is that is showing you and on his chest, that triangle is actually the symbol for air, which is Lucifer. So so what it's trying to show you is that you have to be in a situation where you take an alternative route, right? You take an alternative route to understanding. Yes, you can be in relationships, but at the same time, just because you are in a relationship does not necessarily mean that you shouldn't be paying attention to how a person is. You should also put yourself in a situation where you are vigilant. Pay attention to the people around you. Pay attention to when I say the type of people, I mean are those types of people who you have as friends going to mess around with a significant other? Are they that type? You also have to there's a lot of things you got to pay attention to. You got to pay attention to that person's archetype, who they actually are, right? Who they actually are. Um who they actually are, right? Are they decent? Are they faking decency? Because a lot of times people try to fake decency. And then the thing is that the Empress and the Three of Wands represents this being a situation for you where but this is what the Temperance represents. You have to actually start illuminating your mind, right? See. When I talk about Lucifer, I'm talking about the principle. I'm not talking about the you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about that type. I'm talking about the principle, right? Without the connotations. Okay, just making sure. without the connotations attached to it. And what I mean by that is that, for instance, do you know that when you learn something new or you have an idea or something like that, your brain lights up more than it normally does because you have that enlightenment moment? Now, the whole Luciferian concept, which is what is on the temperance, represents that enlightenment, right? And beyond. Now, that's why on the card, the angel's head is illuminated because it represents enlightenment. You see? And then you have the crown in the background. The crown in the background represents the crown in which, right? Or I should say the head in which the crown should be on, right? So um once you gain that new level of understanding of enlightenment, now you have to admit certain things about yourself and embrace them so that you can actually put yourself in a position to be a decision maker as to when you see people who are on some BS, you actually leave them alone instead of wasting your time and spending so much time on them. The Empress and the Three of Wands here, these two cards are about how, or you're going to end up back in this situation where you think that you're moving towards something that's beneficial for you, but in actuality, you're really not. You're only going to meet the people who will turn their back on you, leave you alone, get something out of you. If they manage to get something out of you, leave, be inconsiderate towards you. That's not something that you ultimately want to be, right? So what you want to find yourself is you want to be in a position like this where you can have a revelation of your lighter side and your darker side, right? And we all have one. You understand? This is what's on the Hermit card. The Hermit represents a person who has a darker side but is having trouble accepting it. You understand what I'm saying? The Hermit also represents Virgo. So this is me ripping on the Virgos when I say the Virgos, as a Virgo myself, we can sometimes have problems accepting the fact that we have a darker side to us. So that's for those people who act like I don't criticize Virgos or whatever. But the point is that once you start to integrate that darker side that you have and the lighter side, what will happen here is that you will now be able to understand yourself even better on a more complex yet simple to you situation and explanation, because you will understand that as a Scorpio, you want real love and you're very loyal. That's the commonality that Taurus and Scorpio have together, right? Is loyalty, but at the same time, you have to also be able to admit that you also have problems with jealousy too, because you find it very hard to find a functional relationship, right? And then when you get yourself finally in a functional relationship, it's so disheartening it's so disheartening to finally get in one, or a relationship that you think you're going to get yourself into or you are in, and then something messes it up. So it is a little bit frustrating. And jealousy comes about when you Scorpios, right? When a person who you trust or people who you may not even necessarily know, soon as you get yourself someone and it's a relationship or y'all at the very least are getting to know each other, now all of a sudden it seems like the floodgates are open and all these different people start coming out of the woodwork trying to holler at your significant other out of nowhere. So the thing is that you have to admit that. Otherwise, if you don't, you're going to continue to remain jealous. You're going to continue to be in a position where you're constantly searching. You have to understand that what it is that you don't want to happen, Scorpio, is you are here. You don't want people who say that they for you flip-flopping and trying to get down with and interact with and be with people, right? Just when they get with you, now they use you as a springboard. But if you can admit that to yourself and actually communicate that to your potential significant other, now you have a better level of understanding, because now your jealousy has to transform into inspiration. You have to do something with that jealousy now. The thing is that the Seven of Wands and the Two of Cups now here represents how this is a situation for a lot of you where what you really got going on, Scorpio, is I understand it's hard work. Just as I said before, it's hard work for you to be in relationships. This is you really putting in as much effort as you possibly can to be here, to be in a situation where you can even be in line to get one. But at the same time, like I've been saying throughout the entire reading, you have to be able to even admit to yourself in the first place that what you've got going on is you've got dark aspects of yourself, right? You want loyalty. You want an intelligent partner. You don't want people to tell you that you matter, and then the next thing you know, behind your back, right? Or you catch them in a situation going off with somebody or a friend or something like this. You want people to actually be loyal to you. But at the same time, you also have to admit to yourself that you do test people to see where their loyalty is. So it's a catch 22 to that. You have to admit that because you sometimes can drive people off with the testing. Because when you test people, people who see people, some people think testing is cute. Some people are patient, or I should say, tolerant enough to go through the test, and some people are not going to be tolerant enough when it comes to going through the testing because they don't see testing as necessary because they will be truthful to you and rock with you and want to be there for you. But at the same time, you trying to test them is a turnoff for them. And they say, listen, I like you, Scorpios, but at the same time, I don't want you to test me because there's no need for it because you will see my value and my loyalty in time, right? Time has to go by time will automatically create the test. Once I'm in a position to be flirted with someone else, if I'm still in a relationship with you and I turn them down and I say no, you will see my value because I didn't end up with that person. Let's clarify the Two of Cups. Let's clarify the Two of Cups. You have the Sun, the Four of Pentacles, the Five of Swords. Right. So this is a situation for a lot of you where you want to fly high like a falcon or an eagle, right? You want to fly high like an eagle, a falcon. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like I said, you want a relationship. But the thing is that you need to understand that you Scorpios have principles, and you need to actually define and redefine for yourselves what those principles are that are deal breakers and what you are willing to put up with, if anything. And then you have the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords represents and stop deviating on it and don't let that's another thing too that I'm hearing. Don't, or I should say, seeing or understanding, I should say, is don't let anyone try to convince you that having standards or wanting a relationship is terrible. A lot of times people come out here and tell you a bunch of stuff about how being in a relationship is like, you're still so young and you have all this time in the world. No, you don't. Because before you look up, you'll be in your 40s and your 50s or your late 30s or whatever, or even older than your 50s, and you won't necessarily be with somebody. But you Scorpios can subvert that or remedy that by understanding what you want in a relationship and simply dating and going and seeing if people have that. Once they show you after a certain point, at most it should take you about a month. At most of the times it'll take you only about a month. You will see that most people are not even real to begin with when it comes to the people who you date. So this is just something for you to take into consideration. Comment on the video, like the video, subscribe. Peace.